Hello friends, welcome to the Cold Prepper, and this is my collaboration for the 30 Days of Preparedness. We've got some outstanding contributors who are all doing different subjects. Today I'm going to be doing the subject of prepare a meal from your pantry. So I'm going to do two meals. The first meal I'm going to do is I call Hamburger hash from the Boy Scouts. And then the second one's going to be Boy Scout stew, because I think that in a post-apocalyptic world, most of our food is going to be soups, chowders, and stews and things like that, because they're so easy and so healthy. So for the Boy Scout Boy Scout chowder, we're going to use freeze-dried onions and potatoes and ground beef. Now you can use the Keystone ground beef. We like to use that primarily in our soups and stews. And then the Thrive Life for everything else. And I've got those rehydrating, will be over there in just a minute. Then for the stew, we're going to use roast beef, and you can either use, which is what we'll be doing today, the canned roast beef, or you can use the Hereford packaged roast beef. You can also use Thrive Life shredded roast beef or diced roast beef, diced beef down here. The dices are a little bit on the small side, so not that great in the stew as you would get a hearty stew or anything like that. We're also going to add mixed vegetables and potatoes, and I like butter beans in mine. If you don't have the canned goods and you're relying on freeze-dried goods, then you're going to use peas, onions, carrots, celery slices, corn, and green beans. And then to that, we're going to add a package of beef stew mix. So that's pretty much it. And let's go ahead and get this started. And I'm going to turn the camera over to Helen, who will be watching me as I do this. So we've got some of the stuff already rehydrated and ready to go over by the stove. So for oil, you have a couple options. I like coconut oil because it stores for so long. You can use vegetable oil. You can use olive oil. There are so many different kinds of oils that you can use. There's also a freeze-dried shortening that's available. I believe it's Augustin Farms. And if you get that, you can rehydrate it and use it. The butter, however, freeze-dried butter, does not have any fat in it. So although you can use it for almost everything that is where you normally use butter, you can't use it for frying because it doesn't have any fat in it. So one of the great things about having the potatoes and onions is they're all pretty much consistently the same size. And so that makes cooking very, very easy when you rehydrate them. Oh gosh, the smell is already so great, it's pitiful. Those onions when they hit the oil. So now in the Boy Scouts, what we would do is we would take the potatoes and the ground beef, just kind of dice it all up, put it into aluminum foil, wrap it all up together. They also put carrots. I don't care for the carrots that much, but they would put carrots into it, wrap it all up in aluminum foil, and just throw it in the embers of the fire, which was fantastic. And this is basically what your ground beef is going to look like. Really finely diced, small pieces. Unfortunately, you aren't going to be able to use your ground beef to make any meatloaf or burgers or anything like that. It just doesn't stick together. Or at least I haven't found a way to do that yet. So we're just going to kind of move this around, get it browned a little bit before we add the meat back in. So while that is browning, we're going to go ahead and start our stew on the other burner. So since this is freeze-dried, we're going to do the other one primarily with canned. Okay, and canned diced potatoes are fantastic in the soups and stews. So let's go ahead and get over here and get this. We're going to go ahead and just pour in 1 can of veg-all or mixed vegetables. You can go ahead and keep the liquid. In an SHTF situation, the water is going to be critical, so you're going to want that. We're also going to add in 1 can of diced potatoes with the liquid from it. I like butter beans or lima beans, either one. So we're going to add in 1 can of butter, in this case butter beans. I'm going to add in 1 can of beef broth. I'm going to add in about 1 can of water. I'll go ahead and stir my potatoes and onions. And now we're going to turn the burner on for this one. And start getting that all kind of together. We're going, since all of this is already pre-cooked, all you really have to do is warm it. Everything here has been cooked in the can, to include the roast beef that we'll be using. So we just want to get this up to a simmer, warm it up real good. Add the meat, and this one takes the least amount of time. So,
put the lid on it.
this is one of those great meals you can use for a stone soup or a nail soup. So you have your neighbors, if they want to participate, just bring a can of something and add to it, and then take something out. So we're going to put a little bit. This is a pressure cooker. I mean, this is a waterless cook system. So I'm going to leave a little bit of a vent so that can warm up a bit. Let's throw this around again. Now remember, I'm an advocate of the proper food at the proper time. So when SHTF happens, for the first week, I'm going to say maybe even a long time for that, might be just 3 to 5 days. Most people are going to be without power, they're going to be without gas, they're going to be cooking, taking stuff out of the refrigerator or cooking it probably in the backyard over grills and things like that. So if you cook outside in your grill or you cook the existing food that you have in stock, that's going to be great. Then after about 7 days and maybe up to about 6 weeks, you don't want to be cooking too much outdoors because they'll know that you're cooking, and because of the odor, light, smoke, all that other kinds of stuff, you want to be cooking indoors. So during that time, there are some things you might want to consider. So there are some items you can do. Just add boiling water. For example, any Mountain House meals. By the way, right now, as of September 10th, 2023, Mountain House has 30% off packages this size if you go to their store, and 50% off their number 10 cans, which is a phenomenal savings. So this is just add boiling water or hot water, let it sit for 10 minutes, and you're done. Same thing with the Peak Profile Refuel. Then you have Nutrient Survival. One of their best foods available is the Homestyle Scramble. Doesn't have any meat, however. This is a mountain man type of a meal. So I like to add a can of diced ham, and that becomes a super meal. One other you might want to consider is just having a whole bunch of sea rations around your home. And with the sea rations, then you have a lot of opportunity to eat stuff without having to really cook it outside. So those are some options for you you might want to consider during the time between when you're going to be cooking outside, keeping a low profile inside, and then you're going to start cooking with your freeze-dried foods like these after that period, maybe about a month to 6 weeks. Okay, let's add the beef stew seasoning mix. It should be relatively warm by now. Nope, it's not. we'll leave the lid off because we really want this to kind of thicken up. Okay. And Helen did me a favor and stirred all my potatoes. We want the potatoes to start to get brown, like these right here. And once they start to get brown, then we're going to add the ground beef in. Remember, this is all pre-cooked, okay? So it's really, really quick and easy once you rehydrate. Oh, by the way, rehydration, let's talk about that. So for 1 cup of potatoes, so potatoes, 1 cup, I think it was 1/2 cup of water. Potato chunks, 1 1/2 cups of water for 3/4 of a cup of potatoes. And then for the ground beef, it was ground beef, 1 cup of ground beef and 1/2 cup of water, 1/4 cup of water. So that's what you need to rehydrate it, and then once it gets rehydrated, you can just set it aside and start your cooking. If we use the diced or the cubed beef for the stew, then that beef is going to be 1 cup of diced beef and 1/2 cup of water as well. So really easy on, and not, you're kind of frugal on the water. It's not that much water you're going to be adding to it.
I want to excuse our dog.
Girls, quiet. Thank you. Okay, so we're pretty much getting there. Now what we're going to do is just sit there and wait for this to cook a little bit. We've got the stew going. That's going to be fantastic. You can add more to it, as I said, as a nail soup or as a stone soup. Get more neighbors involved. They can bring in something, donate to it, and take something out of it. We've got the hamburger or the Boy Scout hamburger and potato and onion casserole, or
It's almost done.
yeah, it's almost there. So I really don't like the two-sided. I'm trying to build this poster board so that you're not always seeing our house. And the two-sided tape that I'm using is not doing the job. So I guess I'm going to have to start doing some gluing. While we were talking, my Field Station Berlin patch fell off. And my MI Core crest fell off. Oh well. You know, 207th MI Brigade, Field Station Augsburg, Field Station Berlin. This was when I did a special trip over to Korea to do the counter-terrorist stuff for the Seoul Olympics, and that was right before Allison was born, 1988. And of course, CERT, and then TACTA, the American Civil Defense Association. And look at this, I put brand new two-sided tape on that twice. I'm gonna have to get some glue and get that down. Of course, up top is the Army Security Agency. I need to get an INSCOM because in 1977, ASA and MI merged to become the Intelligence and Security Command, INSCOM. So I need that patch because I wore it too. Guess I couldn't find one out in the garage, so I guess I'm going to have to order one off of eBay or something like that. Okay, so this is pretty much brown. So we're getting there, and all we have to do now is add our hamburger to it. And I know it'll come out. Now, when we serve this, in the Boy Scouts at least, you cover this with about a half a bottle of ketchup when you're eating it. You take it out of the aluminum foil that you've got in the fire, and this just gets served on the plate, just covered, smothered in aluminum foil. In ketchup. So this is one of those meals you can do very easily on a cast iron frying pan. You can do it with a frying pan outdoors. You can throw it all into the aluminum foil, throw it into the coals of the fire. You can do it indoors in the stove like we're doing here. Then, of course, the stew or soup. That's fantastic for a Dutch oven or any kind of a pot, whether you're going to have that over an open fire outside or any other cooking method, jet stove, rocket stove, or anything like that. That's a fantastic thing for that. So all we're going to do now is we're just going to throw in some of the roast beef. My rule of thumb for this is 1 can of roast beef for each participant in the meal. Since we're making a half recipe here. I'm going to dump this water. And then we're just going to look at how those chunks are. So that's a lot more like chunks, and I like that. So we're going to dump that in there. We're going to dump one more for Helen. So one for Lee, one for Helen. Turn this one off. Move it around just one more time. Okay, and then we're going to stir our beef stew, Boy Scout, Hobo stew, whatever you want to call it. You can add as much as you would like to your stew. We just want to get this a little bit thicker, and we'll be happy to serve it. Boil off a little bit of that water, and then we're pretty much done. So we've got 2 meals that we've cooked using our pantry stuff. And once again, let's go back and review that. You've got either freeze-dried or canned ground beef, freeze-dried potatoes, freeze-dried onions. Then over here, for the stew, you can use cubed diced beef, shredded beef, the canned beef that we did use. We can use green beans, peas, onions, corn, carrots, and celery, or we can just use the canned versions, which are pretty much mixed vegetables and diced potatoes. So that's it. Hope you all enjoyed it and got something from it. So remember that we're all in this together so we can come out the other side together. Please be kind, polite, and respectful to each other because togetherness is the key. Take care. Bye-bye.